Please be seated. The court is now back in session. And I noticed that the international lead co-lawyer for civil parties on her feet, you may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to point out to the chamber that Mr. Sausen absolutely has to return home this evening. So I am wondering whether we may extend the hearing this afternoon in order to enable him to meet his commitments tomorrow, such that he may be able to go back home this evening.
President, if that is the case, then we need to reduce the time starting from the time dated from the time of the prosecution.
I will try to be more brief, Mr. President. Mr. Sausen, was the role of the security guards, such as Sausen, Little Deutsch, and others, to escort prisoners who were to be executed?
Yes, he was the one who took the prisoners out of the detention building to be executed.
Est-ce que c'était le rôle?
Was it the role of the security guards in the guard corps as subordinates to execute prisoners at Krantachan, whether they were men, women, or children?
In general, it was the soldiers who involved in the actions.
Si c'était les soldats qui s'occupaient.
If it was the soldiers who were in charge of such actions, can we say that the security guards and soldiers who were subordinates at Krantachan were charged with carrying out all the dirty work at Krantachan, such as beating prisoners during interrogations or executing them?
It was the same.
Je voudrais revenir sur ce.
I would like to revisit what South Seng said yesterday at the hearing in the afternoon at about 14 hours 18. This is what he stated, and I quote free translation, regarding the execution of children at Krantachan. I would like to point out as follows. Inside Krantachan, there were no palm trees. There wasn't a single palm tree. There were no palm trees within the premises, but far from the premises, there were indeed palm trees. And it is true that palm juice was produced outside of the camp, in the north, the south. South Seng did not answer the question by saying that the guards were in charge of harvesting palm juice for producing wine. And yet, the messenger, Son, confirmed that that was their role. Were there palm trees inside the perimeters of Krantachan which you climbed to harvest juice near the buildings? If yes, where were they located inside the perimeter?
Yes. there were initially within the perimeter near the burial, near the execution sites, there were palm trees, and later on they built a road near the pond, and people were actually executed near those palm trees. And now only one palm tree remains standing.
Est-ce qu'il y avait aussi des palmiers?
Were there also sugar palm trees outside of the first perimeter?
Yes, there were many palm trees at the first outer perimeter fence. In fact, I climbed more than 10 palm trees within the compound.
Est-ce que tout le personnel de Krang Tachan, y compris les gardes de...
Were all the staff members at Krantachan, including security guards, aware of one of the tasks assigned by Ta'an to climb palm trees and to collect juice for the production of alcohol?
Yes, all of them knew that I did that.
Alors, vous avez parlé...
Now, you spoke at length of the massacre of 2 little girls, which you witnessed while you were up a palm tree. I would like to show you now 2 photographs and a plan with the leave of the chamber. May I request that photograph D125/220.30 and .31 to be placed on the screen, as well as the plan, and the reference is D125/220.35. Mr. President, may I show the witness this document?
Yes, you may do that.
Alors, selon...
According to the information on the photograph, these are the palm trees shown to the investigators, from which you were able to observe what happened to the 2 little girls. And you can see the palm trees where the little girls were killed. Is that indeed the location where the little girls were killed? And is that the palm tree up which you went to observe the massacres?
Yes, that is correct. That is the 3 palm trees.
Alors, sur le plan,
On plan D125/220.35, on which the message is written, I've underscored the location of the photographs that were taken. And you can see on that plan the place where the 2 girls, according to you, were executed, and that place was outside of the first perimeter. And it is situated between the first and the second security perimeters, and that was to the west of the security center at a distance of about 100 meters, if I rely on the scale of this map, about 100 meters from the first perimeter. Is that indeed a reflection of what you showed the investigators, and does it also tally with your recollections?
President Civil Party, please wait, and Councillor Kupe, you have the floor.
I object, Mr. President. Would it be a suggestion that the prosecution actually sits down in that chair and answers the question himself? It's leading the witness so much. It's leading the witness to a platter of the answer that he likes to hear. It's nothing to do with proper examination. First he shows a tree, could be any tree, and then he sort of directs him to the map, hoping that he would confirm and tick the box. I mean, what examination really is this?
Monsieur le Président, je me dois de répondre.
Mr. President, I am entitled to respond. First of all, it is the civil party himself who is showing the location and confirming to the parties that it was indeed the place where the little girls were executed, and the plan itself was established on the basis of photographs that were taken on a GPS basis. This is a very objective plan based on what the civil party showed within the premises of Granta Chan. So I am not leading the witness. He himself showed the location, and there was no objection to that plan. So I don't see the basis for this objection.
President, the chamber denies the objection by Nunchi's defense counsel, Akupe. The question is appropriate as it used the document, which is a court document by the investigator of OCIJ, and the civil party, please respond to the last question put to you by the co-prosecutor.
Je vais peut-être...
I will perhaps repeat the question. Mr. Civil Party, is the place you have pointed to as a location where the girls were killed to the west of the first perimeter of the prison at a distance of about 100 meters from the internal perimeter. On the screen, it is not visible, numbers 29 and 30, which correspond to the place where those photographs were taken.
It was outside the first parameter fence, but inside the second parameter, it was less than 100 meters. And from the best estimate, I could say it was about 50 or 60 meters from the first fence.
Très bien.
Very well. I am almost done, Civil Party. I would like us to revisit the issue of the number of pits and bodies at Krantachan at the hearing of the 4th of February 2015. E1/256.1 at 15 hours 16, you stated that as of 1977, when mass executions were carried out, there were too many burial places within the first perimeter, and you had to go out of the premises and go beyond the second perimeter, end of quote, in order to bury bodies. We heard the allegations made by the defense. The defense team doubt that 10,000 people could have been buried on the site of Krantachan. Do you confirm today that the number of bodies that were thrown, that bodies had to be buried outside of the first perimeter, that is outside of the premises, because there was no longer any room for burial of bodies within the premises.
Through my observation of the area, it could be in excess of more than 10,000, because initially when people assume the bodies and trying to look for gold, the skeleton remains that they found totaling for more than 10,000 already, and the area was filled with the skeleton remains.
Est-ce que vous pourriez juste me dire...
Can you simply tell me whether you yourself had to dig pits outside of the first perimeter in order that bodies could be buried in them?
Yes, I and Tachan was ordered to dig a pit. In fact, Kha, Tachan, and myself were ordered to dig the pit near the location where the young children were killed. We dug about 20 to 30 pits, and in each pit they buried, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 bodies of prisoners who were executed.
Dernière série de questions.
Last series of questions. There is a site identification report for Kranchachan. The reference is D125/220. It is a report that was established by the co-investigating judges, notably on the basis of your statements when you accompanied them to the site. And it is stated in this report that, and I quote, free translation, the pits were only 1 to 1 meter 50 deep, and after a day or two, the pits, the surface collapsed when the bodies were rotting, and when the nauseating smell was unbearable, we were asked to dig other pits elsewhere. Did you tell the investigators that indeed after a day or two the land would open up because the bodies started swelling up?
Yes, I did tell them that, and the chief of the office, talked about the smell from the cracking up of the pit. So when he gestured that he smells something foul, it means that I should go and cover those pits which were opening up.
À l'inverse, une fois que les corps étaient...
Inversely, when the bodies were completely decomposed, the contrary happened, isn't it? That is, the land collapsed. That is, there was a slump on the surface of the pits because the bodies were completely decomposed. Is that correct?
President, Civil Party Sot Sang, please speak slowly, because your speed is rather fast and it is difficult for the interpreters to interpret your statement. Civil Party. When the foul smell was made, then 4 or 5 more prisoners would be executed on top of that pit, and then I would be ordered to cover the pit.
Donc si je comprends bien,
So if I understand correctly, the pits were used on several occasions. Once some bodies were decomposed, it made room for the burial of other bodies, and then you had to cover those pits up again. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
alors, vous aviez mentionné le
You made mention of the role of Sun Oson as a messenger at the Krantachan Security Center. When he himself testified, he said that he was not in charge of delivering messages from the district office to Krantachan, but only from the security center of Krantachan to the district office. And he said that there was a district messenger called Hall who was in charge of delivering messages to Ta'an at the Krantachan Security Center. Does that name, Hall, a messenger working at the district level, ring a bell?
Yes, I know the person, though I was not sure whether Hall was a messenger or not.
Bien, je n'ai plus de questions, monsieur.
I have no further questions, Mr. President, and I hope that the civil party will be able to go back home this evening.
President, thank you. The chamber would like to hand the floor now to the defense teams. First, the Nunchi defense.
For organizational purposes, just a second. May I just ask the question how long the defense teams expect to need this afternoon? Because since we just heard the civil party has to go home today, we might have to make arrangements of some sort or decisions of some sort.
To be honest, I think we should be able to finish 4-ish. Mr. Civil Party, just to follow up some questions that were just asked by the prosecution about the matter of decomposing bodies. I just heard you gave the number of 10,000 people who were executed. You've also testified that you have been back on more than one occasion to the site, which is now the Memorial Center of Krantachan. When you go back there, you see a stupa, and you see a big box, I would call it, with skulls. Do you know how many skulls there are in that stupa at the Krantachan Memorial Center?
I did not do any counting. It was the committee who did that. And there was the peace youth group who were also there to engage in that task.
Do you know if there's a difference between the number that you just gave, 10,000, and the amount of skulls that you can see in that stupa?
Based on the work done by the elderly and the committee and the peace youth groups, there were many skeleton remains, and from what I heard, the skulls were more than 10,000, and there were still many pits which had not yet been exhumed at the time.
Fine. Mr. Witness, civil party, I would like to ask you a few questions about something that happened after your testimony before the trial chamber on 6th of February this year. I'm referring, Mr. President, to D219/203. It probably should be an E something number, but I don't see it on my document. It's ERN 01072285, and it contains a report of a off-the-record conversation. I think that you know to which document I'm referring. Mr. Civil Party, do you remember that right after you gave testimony on the 6th of February, that you were approached by an investigator of the tribunal?
No, I was not.
So after you finished your testimony, you didn't have a chat with a foreign investigator who was accompanied by a Khmer interpreter?
Answer. I cannot get your question. Please repeat it.
Once you were done testifying, you had, I believe, a 10-minute talk with an international investigator asking you some questions about your testimony, somewhere, I presume, outside of this building. Is that correct?
Answer, yes. I had a small talk. He met me about the worries and concerns when I came to testify before this court. I was told that I had to be strong. However, I was still concerned and afraid.
Do you remember he asked you questions about Raad and about her mother, Yi Na?
Answer, no.
Did he ask you what, according to you, had happened to Ra during her time at Krang Tachan? Do you remember you spoke to him about this?
Ma'am. Answer, yes. I told that individual.
And do you remember what you told him?
Answer. I told that don't physically touch a rat.
And did you tell him that you believed that was all Duke had done to Raad?
Answer, yes.
So just to be clear, and I think I can ask this question in an open session, Raad was never raped by Duke, according to you. Is that correct?
Answer, no. But Raad was physically touched by that individual.
Did you speak also informally with this investigator about a female prisoner called Rune?
Answer. I never talk with Run, but Irun went into forest with Ta An. Later on, I met Irun, and she told me that Ta An gave her instruction when she was with Ta An, and she survived from the periods.
And did you tell this investigator informally that you believe that Ran had had a love affair with An during her time as a prisoner at Krang Tachan?
Answer, yes.
Did you tell this investigator also her current address, and in other words, that she is still alive?
Answer, she is still alive. She is living in Dong Tung district, Kampot province.
Do you know whether Ron was a friend of another female prisoner who used to be a medic, a nurse named Han?
Answer, her friend was Han, and she is now at in the north of Ongroka, Srai Kwao.
So Ron was in fact a friend or a co-female prisoner with Han, and both women, you're saying, are still alive. Is that correct?
Answer, Han and Irun are still living today.
And would you also be able to give the exact current address of Han?
President, please wait. Civil party, you may now proceed. Civil party lawyer. Civil party lawyer. Mr. President, I would like to object to the last question put by the defense counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia. The question is nothing to do with the facts before us, and it is not related to our case file.
That's a new objection for me, Mr. President. I think it is very relevant because it seems that both females were incarcerated at Krang Tachan. I think we even have their names on possible Krang Tachan documents. And locating both women and possibly having them give testimony would, I think, contribute to a certain the truth. So I think my question as to the whereabouts of both Han and Rune are very relevant questions.
But
President, the objection is overruled. The chamber needs to hear possibly the testimony of the two individuals to ascertain the truth in this case. Mr. Civil Party, you are instructed to give your response to the question by the defense counsel.
បាទ
Civil Party, I know her address. Ihan live in Podok village.
សូមអញ្ជើញលោកត្រីចក្រម
You may now proceed, Judge Friends.
Address on a piece of paper, if you know it. Can somebody please provide the witness with a piece of paper so he can write down the address for us?
President, you may now proceed, International Co-Prosecutor.
Madame la juge Fens,
Judge Vance, you would recall that at hearing of the 4th, to the 6th of February, the civil party had stated that he cannot read. I am not sure he is able to write either.
តែគាត់ក៏ឲ្យគាត់
President, the civil party can tell the court officers, and court officer can help to write the address.
Witness, could you tell your help the full name of the person? Apparently this only is a first name, or which wouldn't perhaps allow to identify the person. So if you know more than this part of the name.
President, actually I saw the word E before the name. Is it the surname or the first name? Civil Party, I often refer the two individuals as Irun and E Han. And I can help you to find the true individual address. President, I saw in the paper you wrote the district name, but did you know the commune? Do you know the commune name? Civil party, yes, I know the commune. Court officer, please ask civil party to write the detail as well in relation to the commune name. President, please exclude the word E because E here is not the surname. You can only write the name, that is the first name, and together with the individual gender.
While the civil party is doing that, for the record, this may be of assistance. The person who I believe he's referring to, the full name can be found at document D 157.7, Khmer 00270-874, English 00866-433 through 34, French 00872-808 through 09. This record has both the full name and also a reference to the nickname that has been used here. So to the extent we're looking for a full name, that's probably it.
President, thank you very much. The International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, Mr. Kope, you may resume your line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Civil Party, I have one more question about a possible other female prisoner. Do you know a female prisoner with the name Set Yem?
Answer, it appears that I have never heard of the name.
Fine. Returning now to these three other female prisoners, Raat, Run, and Han. Do you know, or are you able to recollect, if these three women were in a position to see the same things in relation to the activities of the guards as you?
Answer, I know the three individuals as mentioned by you.
Yes, we have established that, Mr. Civil Party, but my question is, would you be able to tell the Chamber whether these three women were able, in that period, to see the same things that the guards were doing as you have described?
Answer: I did not dare to say anything about this.
I'll move on quickly. Did I hear you testify earlier this afternoon, Mr. Civil Party, that one of the tasks of the guards was also to arrest prisoners?
Answer: yes, it is true. Soldiers had such rights, the arrest and execution duties.
So, is it your testimony that these soldiers were not only guarding Krang Tachan, but also went to the villages to arrest the prisoners?
Answer: I knew that they went to Srinono Po villages to get the prisoners from those places.
Last question, Mr. Civil Party. You said earlier this afternoon that one of the reasons that you are testifying is that you would like to contribute to the search for the truth, and that you are in fact acting on behalf, and I quote you, of those lost souls. In that mission that you described, is it all right for you to also sometimes not tell the truth to the chamber?
Answer: I do not get your question. Please say it again.
You said earlier this afternoon that it is your mission to assist the search for the truth, and that you are acting on behalf of those lost souls. My question to you, in this mission that you see that you have, is it allowed sometimes or more often to not tell the truth about what you saw during decay to the chamber?
Answer: I did not know. I did not think it is necessary to lie the court. I will not gain any interest or benefit for myself. I am here to assist the victims and the survivor of the period, the 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days. And as I said, I do not gain any interest.
One last follow-up question. I asked South Sang this afternoon whether he spoke to the chamber the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have you done the same thing?
Answer: I will tell what I experienced, what I saw, that is true. A few days ago, I listened to a Radio Free Asia concerning Dachen, who testified before this court, and Dachen said that please, the court do not believe in Soy San's testimony. He was too young at that time, and he told lies, and whatever whatever the witnesses talk here, I also knew through radio.
Thank you, Mr. President.
J'attendais, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, I was waiting for you to give me the floor. I have the heavy burden of being the last person to put questions to the civil party. I know we are running out of time, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. I'll need the assistance of the court officer because I understand that the civil party is not able to read. Would it be possible for the court officer to take document E319.1.4 and read out to the civil party questions 107 and 108, which I have highlighted in yellow in the Khmer copy, in order that I may be able to put questions to the civil party subsequently.
President, court officer, you are instructed to assist the civil party in this matter. You may now proceed, International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not see the relevance in whispering to the civil party. All that is counsel for the defense needs to do is to read out a question and it will be translated into Khmer simultaneously. Thank you, prosecution, for giving me this hint. If I want to proceed in this manner, it is because we have a practice before this chamber to refrain from divulging the identity of a person who is a victim of rape. So I do not intend to give the name of such persons in an open hearing. So if it is possible for the two questions to be read out to Mr. Sai Sen, 107 and 108, and if that is possible, I'll then put questions to him. May I request him to pay particular attention not to reveal the names of the persons in question.
Monsieur l'huissier, est-ce que c'est bon?
Court officer, have you read out the two questions to the witness and the answers? And I can now put my questions to him. Mr. Sai Sen, my question to you is as follows. Do you recall stating that a female prisoner was raped at Krantachan? And do you remember giving that name to the co-investigating judges and saying that that rape was reported to you by the mother of the woman who was raped? Do you recall making such an utterance before the co-investigating judges, investigators?
Answer, yes, I recall it. Actually, that female prisoner was not a rape. She was physically touched. But as for two other female prisoners, those two prisoners were raped, and M79 bullet heads were inserted in the vagina before they were killed.
Pourquoi, Monsieur Saïsen?
Why then, Mr. Saisen, did you say that those women were raped, whereas according to your statements today, you did not why would you make such a statement before the OCIJ investigators, whereas it was not true, whereas it wasn't the case?
Answer. There were different women. Rat was physically and sexually touched. As for 2 other female prisoners, they were raped.
Pour la suite de votre déposition.
Following your testimony, may I request you, witness, not to repeat names? Why, I repeat, did you tell the co-investigating judges that these women had been raped, whereas they hadn't been raped? Why?
President, civil party, please wait, so you may now proceed. Lead co-lawyer.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, we are trying to leave the defense to do their work. But in order to be complete, we should also say that that was not the statement of Soy Sen during the 5th of February hearing. He testified at length on the rapes and the 2 incidents, the reality of those incidents separately. We spent a lot of time obtaining clarifications on this matter, and he ended up making the following statement, the following clarification. He said, as regards the person in question, all I saw is that they played with her, but I did not witness any sexual acts as such. And lastly, in answer to a question put to him by Counsel Kope, in the end, when he was asked whether he witnessed the rapes of those persons, he stated very clearly at 9:35, no. So once again, we have had all the latitude to discuss these questions, these issues. Mr. Soy Sen spoke on the 5th, 6th, and 7th of February on this matter. His testimony on this matter is clear. He did not witness the rapes of those persons. He pointed out that those persons were touched sexually. I wanted this to be clarified for the sake of the record. Yes, Mr. President, I do quite understand the clarifications of my learned friend, but I must say that my question is all the more relevant because I am not trying to revisit the facts. And Mr. Soy Sen said that he was not a witness to those events. And my question is, since he said he wasn't a witness, why did he tell the investigators of the OCIJ that they were raped, whereas he knew that it was not true? That is the question. I know it is relevant, since the questions put to him by his counsel, in answer to those questions, he said he had no reason to lie and to tell things that were not true. My question, therefore, to him is why he made that statement before the co-investigating judges, whereas he knew that it wasn't true. My question is why. I'm not asking him to give details or to explain the fact that he did not witness the incidents. My question is why he gave a version that doesn't tally with the reality.
President, witness stated clearly already. He said that there was a confusion in relation to the incidents, and I believe the question is repetitive. And perhaps the better question is why there was such a confusion. It is because of the investigator or it is because of someone else. If it is a repetitive question, civil party, you are not instructed to give your response because you stated already that there was a confusion in this matter.
Monsieur Soy Sen?
Soy Sen, you stated that there was a mix-up with regard to this issue, but in answer number 107, you stated that the rape was reported to you by the mother of the woman in question. In the interest of Chamber and the parties, I would refer you to document E3/5844, which is the record of an interview of the mother of the victim in question. In Khmer, the ERN is 01056209. In French, 01056617. In English, 01056615. This is a partial transcript of the audio recording of the interview of that person. And the question is as follows. Mr. Saisen, you state that the mother of that person told you of an act of sexual assault or rape she was victim of. If I were to tell you that the mother of that person was interviewed by the OCIJ investigators and she stated that none of her children was maltreated at Krantachan, what reaction would that elicit in you? And would you confirm that the mother of that person said that the daughter suffered any assault of any nature?
No. He said that he physically touched her. That's all.
Donc, vous maintenez.
So you stand by your statement that it was the mother of that person who told you of the touching?
Yes.
Et au sujet de la mort supposée de cette personne.
And regarding the supposed death of that person, was that also a mix-up?
Please repeat your question.
Dans la partie qui vous a été lue.
In the part of your statement that was read out to you, you also referred to the death of that person. So my question to you is whether that was also a mix-up in what you told the investigators regarding the supposed death of those two persons.
I knew that two women brought in from Tribunal were raped by him, and after they died, he inserted the M79 bullet heads into their vaginas. And that's what I told the investigator when I was interviewed, because I told them what I saw, what I was told by him.
Ce que qui vous avez rapporté?
Who related that to you?
Mr. President, can I say his name?
Oui, si une personne vous a raconté, il ne s'agit pas du nom des victimes. Donc, si
Someone related it to you, and that is, if that is not the name of a victim, yes, you are entitled to give that name.
Yes, and I was told by Bong Duch.
est-ce que je dois comprendre que vous n'avez...
Should I take it then that you did not witness the incident, but it was someone who told you about that incident, and you said that it was Deutsch. Little Deutsch or Senior Deutsch?
President Civil Party, please wait, and the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the impression here that we are in a mix-up here. You talked of a rape and sexual touching, and now the civil party has to explain the circumstances of the death of two women who were raped and grenade heads were inserted in their vaginas. And now we are told it is Deutsch who said that. Now we are in a mix-up, and it's very difficult for us to follow the examination.
Defense counsel, please wait.
Counsel, how many more questions do you have? Question of time management at the moment.
Je pense que si on me laisse terminer cette ligne de...
I believe that if I'm allowed to obtain the clarifications on these issues, I would have about 5 minutes left, and I have 3 minutes of questions on another matter. But if the answers are clear, there shouldn't be any need for further time.
Sorry?
President, due to the practical issues, and there seems to be a confusion of the exchanges of questioning and answering a session just then, and in order to ensure that the response shall be clear and brief, then the defense counsel must make sure that the question she put to him shall be the one that can be asked publicly. And if you want to ask the question on the sexual rape or harassment at Kantachan, you need to seek permission from the chamber first, as the chamber may decide whether it shall be held in closed session or not. And that is for the sake of ascertaining the truth in this case.
J'entends bien, Monsieur.
I do very well understand, Mr. President, and I will take your advice into consideration. But it appeared that the chamber had decided that we cannot mention the names of the persons raped, but that we could refer to the facts in public session. So I'm paying particular attention to avoid having names of such persons mentioned before this chamber.
The idea is you go ahead with questions that had nothing. You said you had additional questions that have nothing to do with the rape or sexual assault. You ask these questions in open session, then we close the session that allows an open debate with names, etc., to clarify the couple of things you still want to have clarified about sexual offenses. So please go ahead now with the questions that have nothing to do with the sexual offenses. Then we'll go into closed session where everybody can use the names of the victims, which will make the debate much easier. At least we hope so. Is that clear?
C'est clair, Madame la Juge.
It is clear, Judge Vance. I wanted to avoid a closed session because it would be a further waste of time. But I do understand. Mr. Soy Sen, at the hearing, in the course of your testimony, you stated that was at the hearing of the 4th of February 2015, E1/256.1, shortly after 15 hours 45, 27 seconds, the question put to you was as follows. Your answer was, when they were taken out to cultivate rice, and you were referring to prisoners, there were 7 prisoners, and since there were many, we were asked to stay and watch them and to pay attention. If a prisoner had escaped, I would have been executed. Yes, I did such monitoring on the work sites. End of quote. And that was a free translation. Today, a guard, South Seng, pointed out that amongst his duties was the task of watching prisoners when they worked outside of the Krantachan Security Center. My first question is as follows. Who assigned you to play the role of watching prisoners? Do you agree that such a role corresponded to the role played by the guards?
I was a prisoner, and I had been there quite longer than others. So when the chief left, then we were told that amongst the 6 or 7 of you had to guard the prisoners, and if any of them attempted to flee, and if one of them fled, then you all will be in trouble.
Et comment faisiez-vous pour empêcher?
And what did you do to prevent the prisoners from escaping?
Nobody fled because those prisoners were all female. That is Yinyo and her family members, and Tachan and myself.
Et vous n'aviez pas d'armes?
Did you not have any weapons as part of your guard duties?
Of course, I was a prisoner and I was not given any weapon.
Est-ce que les autres prisonniers savaient que vous aviez...
Did the other prisoners know that one of your roles was to watch them?
No.
Donc, ils pensaient que vous étiez...
So they thought you were a prisoner on the same footing as they were.
Yes, they considered me as just another prisoner.
Tout à l'heure, répondant...
A while ago, in answer to a question put to you by your counsel, you stated that you did not feel any hatred or anger towards the guards at Krantachan, and you explained that you had testified without any hatred. I would like to read out to you a statement you gave to DC Camp, and it is document E3/4846, and the ERN in French is 00943-276. The RN in English is 00527786, and the ERN in Khmer is 00527748. And in answer to a question regarding the facts, your answer was that to think about those 3 years again and to hear the names of those persons again makes me so angry. My memories are clear. I sometimes feel like taking an axe and killing all those people. End of quote. Would you agree with me, Mr. Soysen, that when you were interviewed by DC Camp, you made a statement which is at variance with what you have told this chamber today?
President Sivapati, please wait, and the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Ce n'est pas une objection.
This is an objection, but in the interest of the public that is watching us, I want to say that the interview to DC Camp is 2004, took place in 2004.
Donc, je répète ma question.
So let me repeat my question, if need be. Do you agree that the statement you made to DC Camp is different from what you are telling the chamber today?
Yes, I agree, because at that time there was no law in this regard, and now we have a proper legal system with a proper court, so my view is different.
Je voudrais passer maintenant à...
I would like us to move to questions relating to clarifications regarding the rape. I believe I can ask my questions without having us go into closed session, because I don't intend to give the names of the persons concerned, but I am in the chamber's hands. But I believe that I can ask those questions without referring to the names of the victims, the supposed victims.
President, if you don't mention the name of the individual, but please try to simplify your question so that he can respond. From what I listen to the Khmer interpretation, your questions are so complicated. So please try to do that.
J'espère que Monsieur le Président.
I hope, Mr. President, that they are less complicated in French. I will endeavor to avoid such complications. Mr. Soisen, you made mention of 3 persons. One person is alleged to have been a victim of touching, and 2 other women were victims of rape with M79 grenades. Do you agree that you are making the distinction between the woman whom you say today was a victim of sexual touching and 2 other women who were raped with grenades? Do you make the distinction between the 2?
Yes. I knew about the 2 women who were raped, and later on M79 bullet heads were inserted into their vaginas. As for another woman, she was only physically touched, and I mentioned that clearly.
D'accord. Donc mes questions maintenant.
Very well. My questions to you now have to do with the 2 women you said were raped with ammunition. Is that clear?
Vous vouliez rajouter quelque chose, Monsieur Soisen?
Would you like to add anything, Mr. Soisen? Is it now clear to you that the questions I'm going to put to you now have to do with the 2 women you say were raped with ammunition?
Yes, I told you repeatedly already about the 2 women, and actually I mentioned that since my first testimony last time. President Civil Party, please wait for the questions to be put to you, and please make your response brief and precise. You need to listen through the questions first.
Donc je ne vous demande pas de...
I am not asking you to revisit the description of the facts. What I am asking you to do is to clarify before this chamber, first of all, how you witnessed those rapes.
I also testified on that point. After he raped the 2 women, he killed them, and then he ordered me to bury the dead bodies of the 2 women.
Tout à l'heure, lorsque nous avons...
A while ago, when we referred to those facts, I heard that Deutsch related the incidents to you and that you did not personally witness the rapes. Can you tell the chamber whether you witnessed those rapes by saying yes or no?
No, I did not witness the rape, and it was Dutch himself who told me that he raped them, he killed them, and then he asked me to bury them. And then he asked whether I saw the M79 bullet heads in their vaginas, and I said, yes, I did.
Donc, est-ce que vous pouvez préciser?
So can you specify whether it was Little Deutsch who related the rape he committed and who asked you whether you had seen the M79 grenades?
Yes, it was the Little Deutsch.
Et c'est le jour même des...
And that was on the very day of the events. Was it on that same day that he related the incidents regarding the rape to you?
No.
Yes, it was just a little bit a while after what happened.
À l'audience du 5 février.
Hearing on the 5th of February 2015, you stated that the Little Deutsch and Sao Seng committed those rapes. Who told you that Sao Seng was also present when those rapes were committed?
It was Deutsch who told me that.
Monsieur le Président, j'en ai terminé de mes questions.
Mr. President, I'm done with my questions, but I would like to make a motion because in view of the gravity of the allegations and the fact that the two witnesses are available, we should confront them in order for the truth to be brought to light.
President, what about other parties? Do you wish to make any comments regarding the request?
Allô? Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, it is not clear whether the defense cannot make a written application. She talks of confronting the witnesses. We've talked of Sao Seng, we've talked of Deutsch. I don't think there is need for a lengthy debate on this, whereas the defense could have made a written motion. I have no problem with making a written application.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will also need a bit of time to react to that application, and if it is in writing, it will be simpler for us. We have heard the two persons at length today, and each of them has a different version, and I don't see how the confrontation before this chamber will bring the truth to light. And we should also bear in mind that this application is rather tardy. We've had the investigations, and since then, since the closing order, we've had a lot of time, and the defense had several opportunities to make such an application. It has never done that. It never did so during the investigation, and the civil parties are of the view that it is tardy and it is irrelevant to the manifestation of the truth. We will have two persons, each of whom will dig in their heels and stick to their statement. So subject to the possibility of making our remarks in writing, and if the defense agrees to make such an application in writing, we'll then object to such a confrontation taking place in writing as well.
If I may briefly reply, Mr. President, I think it might be a good idea to have a written procedural proceedings about this. What I would like to note is that I don't think the civil party lawyers should be the one discussing this issue. I think there are two lawyers, both representing one civil party and the other civil party. It would be a conflict of interest, I think, if one lawyer now is giving the position on, I think, both civil parties. We all agree, you have actually asked that question to the civil parties, that there is a conflict of interest. So I don't think it is appropriate for one lawyer now to speak about this issue. However, having said that, it's late. We won't have a confrontation right now. I think that's unfeasible. So maybe we should have a written proceedings about this.
President, the Chamber now instructs the initiator to submit it in writing to the Chamber. And Mr. Soisan, as a civil party, you are given an opportunity to make a statement regarding the crimes alleged against the two accused, Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan, and which caused you harm during the Democratic Cambodia regime, and which led you to apply it as a civil party for collective and moral reparations, as well as the harms inflicted upon you physically, emotionally, and materially, which are the direct result of the crimes. And if you wish to do so, the floor is yours. Soisan, I am grateful to you, Mr. President, for allowing me to testify before this Khmer Rouge Tribunal on behalf of the victims throughout the country, in order to enlighten the court on behalf of those who died during the regime. I myself do not benefit from my testimony, but it is the benefit for the young generations and also for those lost souls who would reincarnate in the next life and without having to go through such heinous crimes again. And I have a question to put to you, Mr. Chamber, which is the following. Why, when there was plenty of food around, people were deprived of food and as a result they died? I just want to have a few clear words to this question, and that is all, Mr. President. President, thank you, Mr. Soisan. The Chamber would like to inform you that on the 8th testimony, the Chamber observed that the two accused still wish to remain their rights, to exercise their rights to remain silent, and so far there is no indication as they change their position. And once the Chamber is expressly informed of their status, and that will be the responsibility of the accused and their counsel, that they have to immediately inform the Chamber if the accused changes his mind and wishes to respond to any questions put to any of them by the bench or by the parties. But so far we have not received any such a response on the change of their status, of their exercise of rights to remain silent. And as such, the Chamber cannot instruct the accused to respond to your questions, as they are protected by their right to remain silent. Today's proceeding has come to an end. We will adjourn today's proceeding now, and we will resume tomorrow morning, commencing from 9 o'clock in the morning. And for tomorrow, the Chamber will hear the testimony of to TCCP 880. This information is for the concerned parties and the general public. And Mr. Soy San, the Chamber is grateful for your testimony as a civil party. In addition to your previous testimony, and your testimony may contribute to ascertaining the truth. And now your testimony is concluded, and you may be excused from the courtroom so that you can return to your place of residence or wherever you wish to go. And the Chamber wishes you a safe journey. Court officer, in collaboration with the WISU, please make necessary transportation for Mr. Soy San to return to his residence or wherever he wishes to go to. Security personnel, you are instructed to take the two accused back to the detention facility and have them back into the courtroom tomorrow morning before 9 o'clock. The court is now adjourned.